Welcome. Welcome to the Mindfuck podcast. My name is Wanu Ali Shea, and sometimes I do go by Amazing Soul. Thank you so much for taking time out to hang out with me in the next few minutes. FCK stands for fun, compassion, and kindness. And on the Mindfuck podcast, what we essentially talk about is nervous system regulation, how to start to feel safe in our bodies, and also to create trust between the brain or the mind and the body with a sprinkle of fun. And before we start today's episode, we have like a mini tradition where I read a list that I titled Reminders to Being Human. And the intention behind reading that list every time is to remind myself and also to remind you on your journey. Reminders to being human. Have fun along the journey. Show yourself compassion. Be kind to others. Being complex and being simple can hold true in the same breath. Stay curious. Hold space for pauses. Hold space for not knowing. Never underestimate the power of silence. Nature has a lot of wisdom. Pay attention. There is power in we than I. If nothing else makes sense, come back to love. Pain is our greatest teacher. And the very last one, never underestimate your ripple of existence. Welcome, welcome, welcome once again, my friend. Now let's get into the fun part of the show. All right. Now, today on the podcast, I want to talk to you about something that sounds simple on the surface, right? But when you actually start living it, it can feel incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, your nervous system cannot update what safe feels like without new experiences, right? Not new ideas, not new information, not new podcasts, new experiences. And today on the podcast, I actually want to talk about what that actually means in real life because this is something I had to learn the very hard way. I didn't learn from a book, I learned from my own body, right? And maybe as you listen to this episode today, you might recognize parts of yourself in some of this moment I will be sharing with you. I would love to start with something very simple. Okay, now let's imagine you send someone a text message, right? You type something thoughtful, maybe even vulnerable, right? You send the message and then nothing. You don't get a response. 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes passed, then an hour, then 3 hours. And suddenly, your mind begins doing what the human mind is incredibly good at doing. Your mind starts to fill the silence. Maybe the first thought may be neutral. And you think to yourself, maybe they're busy. They must be busy, right? Then another thought arrives after that. Okay, maybe they're ignoring me. And if your nervous system has spent years learning that silence can mean rejection, abandonment, or conflict, your body begins reacting, right? I mean, your chest suddenly tightens, your stomach suddenly drops, your thoughts begin to speed up, right? Now, here's the very, very, very interesting part, right? The interesting part is nothing has actually happened yet. But your nervous system is reacting based on past experiences. Your body is not reacting to this moment. No, it's reacting to memory. And this is something I, in my life, personally had to slow down to begin noticing that. Because I started to realize that my nervous system wasn't living in the present moment. It was predicting the future based on past experiences. It was, it is, and it was a very, very interesting realization for me when it started to click. You know, I remember one particular period in my life when this became so very obvious. It was in 2022. I was transitioning out of the military, and my entire life structure was changing right before my eyes. I mean, for so many years, my days had been highly structured, right? I wake up probably 5 a.m. I follow orders. I complete my task. There's constant movement. I mean, there's constant simulation. There's constant pressure. And I was doing all that back to back for years. Then suddenly, that structure disappeared. And for the first time in my life, in my adult life, I had space. And what I thought would feel peaceful actually felt deeply uncomfortable. I mean, there were moments where I would just sit in silence in my apartment, nothing urgent to do, no schedule, no external pressure, but my body will feel restless, right? Almost agitated. My body will feel like something was wrong, but nothing in my physical environment was wrong. Absolutely nothing. I was in a safe space, but my body did not register that. My nervous system simply did not recognize stillness as safe. It had learned something different over the years. I mean, for years, my body had associated safety with movement, with urgency, and high alertness, right? So when my life started to slow down, my nervous system interpreted that as danger. And that's when the light bulb went off for me. That's when I began realizing something very important. Safety is not just about your environment. Safety is also about familiarity. Your nervous system trusts what it knows. Even when it knows it was stressful, right? It was a stressful experience. Even when your nervous system knows that this was an exhausting period in our lives, even when your nervous system knows that we were on survival mode for so many years, even when your nervous system knows that, because familiarity feels safe and unfamiliarity feels threatening to the nervous system initially. Initially, right? And this is where the idea of new experiences became incredibly important for me, because your nervous system does not update through thinking. No, it updates itself through experience. I mean, you can literally tell yourself, I am safe, I am okay, I can relax. You can literally tell yourself that over and over and over and over again, right? But if your body has spent years learning the opposite, from my experience, words alone will not change that. Your nervous system needs lived experience. Your nervous system needs new moments that slowly contradict old patterns. Small experiences repeated many times. Consistency is key here, my friend. Not intensity, not perfection. Consistency. Micro moments. Let me give you a very ordinary example, right? So let's just say, imagine you walk into a room full of people. Maybe it's a networking event. Maybe it's a gathering. Maybe it's a social dinner. And let's just say maybe you have spent most of your life feeling socially anxious. Your nervous system already has a prediction that this environment that I just walked into is unsafe. So what does your body do? Automatically, your shoulders start to tighten, your breathing becomes shallow, your mind begins scanning for potential embarrassment. Woo! Now imagine you go to that same type of event, but nothing bad happens. I mean, you walk up to someone new and you talk to them, and they smile at you and you laugh, right? The moment you leave that event, you realize to yourself, man, that wasn't as bad as I thought. One experience like that doesn't change everything. No, it doesn't. But it plants a new piece of information inside your nervous system. That is the power of new experiences. And you start to think to yourself after that experience, maybe this isn't as dangerous as I believed it would have been. Then maybe a few weeks later pass, you attend another gathering. Again, nothing terrible happens. Your nervous system receives another piece of information. It updates itself. Over time, consistently, something begins shifting. Now, here's the key part most people don't talk about. That shift I just described to you requires repetition. Your nervous system trusts patterns, not single moments. Micro moments of safety, patterns, right? Now, this is also something I began noticing in very small ways in my own life. I mean, something as simple as my sleep. For a very long time in my life, my nervous system struggled with sleep. I mean, I was coming from years of high paced military life, constant alertness, and chronic back pain had trained my body to stay vigilant. So when the nighttime came, my body did not immediately relax. I mean, I would lie on my bed wide awake, and my mind will have thoughts like, you need to sleep, Wanu. I mean, you have to try to sleep. And the more I try to focus on sleeping, the more my body resisted. Eventually, I realized something important. My nervous system did not feel safe enough with letting go. And I have noticed on my journey, sleep requires surrender. It requires trust. And for a long time in my life, my body had not practiced that. Right? So for me, instead of forcing sleep, I started approaching it differently. So if I woke up at night, instead of getting frustrated at myself, I would simply notice what was happening. And I'll just tell myself, okay, I'm awake right now, right? I feel the bed beneath me. I am breathing. And it's okay to be awake right now. That's it. Small moments. Just being aware what was happening around me when I woke up at that time. No pressure, right? Just noticing what was happening in my body. And over time, something began changing. My body slowly started trusting that nighttime was safe again. But I'll tell you this, it did not happen overnight. It happened through hundreds of small experiences. I feel like this is what people often misunderstand about nervous system regulation. It's not a single breakthrough moment. No. It's many small experiences that gently update your body's expectation. That's the core of nervous system regulation. Experiences like driving somewhere new, trying something unfamiliar, having an honest conversation, sitting in silence without distraction of your phone, right? Allowing yourself to feel your emotions instead of pushing them away. Each of these moments sends new information to your nervous system, not through thinking, no, through lived experience. And I will say this, sometimes those new experiences, they feel uncomfortable at first, initially, because unfamiliar does not immediately feel safe, right? It takes time. It takes patience. I remember one of the very first times I initially started to slow my life down, intentionally not rushing myself, intentionally not having constant simulation, and just walking slowly outside, feeling my feet on the ground. And I started to notice something strange. right? My body wanted to speed up. I mean, I kept bringing out my phone and checking my phone, right? And sometimes my mind will keep saying, man, you should be doing something, you know. Why are we walking so slow right now, Anu? Oh, man. Such an interesting, beautiful experience with the mind and the body. And I realized that this discomfort was not danger. No. In that moment, I realized that it was just unfamiliarity. I wasn't used to it. I wasn't used to walking slowly, right? My nervous system had not practiced slowness. So slowness back then felt wrong. But the beautiful part about this is the more I practiced it, the more my body began accepting it. Eventually, walking slowly felt normal to me, even sometimes very peaceful. But the first few times, it felt almost irritating because I felt I needed to walk faster. Ah, oh man. The same thing happens when we start being honest with ourselves. I think so. It's also very big for me, like just being honest with where I was in my life. Um, there was a moment recently where I noticed something about my own thinking. I held myself accountable. I just sent somebody a text message and they didn't reply immediately. And I just caught my mind, beginning to create an internal story. And I was like, wait, what? I think my mind was like, okay, maybe we said something wrong. Maybe they're just ignoring us. And in the middle of my mind going in those loops, I paused. I'm like, wait, hold up. Not to judge myself, but just to observe what my mind was doing in real time. And I realized this was simply an old mental pattern. My brain was filling silence with a story. So instead of reacting like I always did years ago, I just waited. Like I just observed the thoughts for what it was, you know. And a few hours later, the person that I sent the message to replied normally. Nothing was wrong. And that moment, right, that simple moment became another small update from my nervous system. I have realized that silence does not automatically mean danger. Excuse me. But that update only happens when you allow the experience to unfold. If you react immediately, the old pattern stays intact, right? So when people ask me, how do I make my nervous system feel safe? The answer is often simpler and slower than people expect. You give it new experiences. That's all. Small new experiences repeated many times. Consistency is key on this journey. Moments where nothing bad happens, even though your mind predicts danger. Moments where your body learns, oh, this is actually okay. Oh, okay. And over time, your internal world begins shifting. That's how you create safety. You see, my friend, if you look back at your own life, you might notice this pattern everywhere, right? The first time you tried something new, I mean, when I mean something new, the first day at a new job, I mean, the first time speaking in front of people. I mean, the first time you traveled somewhere from unfamiliar. At first, when you did all those things, your nervous system was uncertain, right? Maybe even afraid, but you still did it. But after experiencing those moments a few times, it became your new normal. Your nervous system updated itself, right? And the same process applies to emotional safety too, my friend. Allow yourself to feel sadness. Allow yourself to feel the anger. Allow yourself to set boundaries. You see, if you've never practiced these things before, they will feel unfamiliar at first. Not because those things are wrong, but because they're new information to your nervous system. That's all. That's it. And your nervous system is learning something it has never practiced before. So you got to give it time. You got to be patient with it. So if you're currently listening to this and thinking to yourself, okay, I understand these ideas, but my body still struggles. I just want to let you know that is completely normal. Your nervous system is not trying to sabotage you. No. Mm-mm. It is simply trying to protect you based on what it has learned in the past. And the way we gently change that is through lived experiences, not pressure, not force. No, no, no. Just small moment of trying something new. And allowing your body over time to slowly realize, wow, I actually survived that. Wow, I was okay after that experience. Wow, I can actually handle this. New experiences, my friend. That's how we update our nervous system. So maybe today, the new experience is something very small. I mean, it might be walking, taking a walk somewhere different. It might be having a conversation you've been avoiding. It might be allowing yourself to rest without guilt. Or simply noticing when your mind creates a story and letting reality unfold before reacting. Now, these small moments I just mentioned may not seem significant, right? But to your nervous system, they are new data, new evidence. And over time, consistency, my friend, those small pieces of evidence can completely change how safe the world feels inside your body. Because safety is not something your mind decides. No, safety is something your nervous system learns. One new experience at a time. As always, my friend, I want to thank you so much for listening. I want to thank you so much for being here. And I'm sending you so much love from my heart to yours. Thank you.